Hi friends, this video is on motion. This video is brought to you by coachingcares.in, designing future by smart education. Topics to be covered under this lesson are path length and displacement majorly. So the motion, we'll talk about the motion initially to understand both the terms. Motion is the change of position with time, and this change of position with time undergoes with two terms. I mean, this motion change of position is related to two quantities: path length, number one. Number two is displacement. So we'll understand clearly path length and displacement to understand the change of position with time, to understand the motion. So you can see in the picture, distance is shown by dotted line, and displacement is a continuous line. So path length is basically the trajectory, or we can call it distance. Some people call it distance, some people call it a path length, or some people call it a trajectory. And displacement is basically shortest distance between two position of an object. So in this, you just assume initial position is one object is at initial position. Initial position is A and final position is B. Object travels from A to B in a short interval of time, and it travels through the trajectory or through the path, this dotted line. It follows this path, right? So this path, this trajectory is the distance or path length of the object traveled in a shortest interval of time, or in a short period of time. So now we'll understand the displacement. So displacement between this initial position and the final position of an object is the shortest distance, which is the continuous line between two positions. Okay, so now you can understand clearly the difference between displacement and distance. Let us understand it more in depth in the next slide. So path length and displacement. Basically, path length, again, I say this is the total distance of an object travels from initial position to final position. Here, the important term is total distance. Now, displacement at the same time is the shortest distance. This is the shortest distance traveled between initial and final position. So these two are, major understanding points to understand path length and to understand the displacement. Here total distance comes into picture. Here shortest distance comes into picture when we talk about the change in position of an object from initial position to final position. So let us understand it by this example. I mean, this is clearly defined, and you can understand it by this picture. This is you can visualize it. This is a person moving on bike, starting from this point, or say this is the home. It is starting the his journey, and this person is moving and going along this trajectory or along this path or road, and it travels the along this path and reaches finally the factory or office of this person. So this is the total, the path, the total distance he traveled along this path is 200 meters. At the same time, if we see, you can visualize it from the home and to the factory. This dotted line shows the shortest distance. This is shortest distance. This is the shortest distance, and it when we measure this distance, this comes 120 meter. So it travels the same destination in different, in a different way we can define it. One is 200 meter along the path, and we can say the shortest distance is 120 meter. So this 200 meter is known, the path length or trajectory or distance exactly, and this 120 meter is known the displacement, the shortest distance. You can see in the picture the d is the, suppose we are assuming xf is the final, the value, final position, final numeric value of this position. Dxf we assume, sorry, xf we assume, and xi is the initial position. So displacement will come xf minus xi. So guys, you can understand clearly both the terms now. Let us take one more example, and you can visualize it. This is the trajectory. It is moving now from A to C to D, then finally to B. This is the distance it is traveling, and this is the dark line. This blue line is the shortest distance, which is the displacement. At the same way, in this picture also you can visualize one path. One object from position A to B is traveling through path one. Okay, another way it is traveling, another path is path two, and the third path is path three. These are three ways or roads. Objects moves from one position to another position. You can visualize the path one, path 2. So path 2 is the shortest distance between A to B. So this is the displacement. And this is path 1 and path 3. These both are, distance or path lengths. Okay. So now we'll go for the next slide. We'll see the example of path length and displacement. You just visualize, we are assuming a person or a boy. A boy starts from position A from his home. He's starting his journey from home, and it goes to church. This is church. Starting his journey from home, and finally, second point is the shop. It reaches to the shop. Okay, so from here to here, from home to church, this is the first travel. Then the second travel is from church to shop, which is the final position. So we can say this is the final position, and home is the initial position. Initial position. So now you just focus the journey. The initial position is A, home, and the final position is, let us say, C, and in between the second position is B. So when we say the path length, it travels from A to B. The path length will be equal to, suppose this distance is A, and suppose this distance is X, and this distance is Y. So path length will be X plus Y. Because the initial position and the final position, the total travel distance is X and Y. Now, if suppose I want to know the displacement. Displacement of the same journey will be equal to what? Initial position to the final position. Suppose this is Z. So displacement will be Z. So by this example, you can understand clearly the difference of path length, and you can calculate easily the displacement of the same journey. Okay. So I hope you are now able to understand clearly the distance and the displacement of an object. Okay. One more thing, you can see, you can visualize path length not equal to zero. These are the facts you must understand. Path length will not be it will not be zero at any case, but displacement it can be zero in a journey. Just to understand this, you assume a boy starts journey from his home and it ends journey to the shop. It is moving from here to here. Suppose this distance it is traveling A, and after that, after buying some goods, it is again going back to the home, right? Suppose this journey is B. I mean, both are same. So now you can visualize the initial position of the journey is the home. Home is the initial position, right? And what is the final position of journey? Of course, home is the final position of this journey or of this travel. So you just see, I mean, you just focus on this. Initial position and final position are the same, right? So the difference or the displacement between, I mean, along this journey, what will be the displacement? First, we'll see the path length. Path length will be equal to what? A plus B, and of course, because A and B are equal, so path length will be equal to 2A. And displacement at the same time is equal to final position minus initial position. So that will be equal to A minus B, or we can say both are equal, A minus A. So this is equal to 0. You just visualize same journey, path length comes, I mean 2A, or you can say 2A plus B, and at the of the same journey displacement is coming to 0. So displacement it can be 0 in a journey. This is the important situation to understand. Now we'll go for further study in the further lesson. So guys, I hope you are now able to understand clearly these two terms, and at the same time, you will be very much clear to understand the motion. I mean, change of position with time, which depends on path length and the displacement. So these two terms define the motion. So motion is basically change of position. So position is basically the displacement. I mean, the distance traveled by an object. So we'll understand both, both the cases in depth under motion. If suppose change of position, we are assuming displacement, then uh, it will be a different terminology to understand. And if we are assuming the distance or path length or trajectory of an object in the journey, then this term it will define different terms in the further study we'll study in the further lesson. So thank you very much.